Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Comblusier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities, Inc. Today's webinar features Westhaven Gold Corp. Westhaven is a gold-focused exploration company advancing the high-grade discovery on the Shovelnose project in Canada's newest gold district, the Spence's Bridge Gold Belt. Westhaven controls 37,000 hectares with 4 100% owned gold properties spread along this underexplored belt. Today, I have with me on the webinar Gareth Thomas, the President, CEO, and Director, and Peter Fischl, the Exploration Manager at Westhaven. The format of today's webinar will be comprised of two parts. In the first part, Gareth and Peter will provide an update on Westhaven, and we'll be discussing the results from the initial mineral resource estimate and presenting the 2022 exploration and drill program at the Shovelnose Gold Property. And then in the second part of the webinar, we'll take your questions live. So please submit them at any point using the chat feature, and we'll get to them during the Q&A session. To start, we'll handle the disclosures and then get into the presentation. So for Westhaven, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the Westhaven corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Westhaven-specific disclosures. So now I'll turn it over to Gareth and Peter to update you on Westhaven and what you have to look forward to with the company.
Thank you very much, Taylor. I'm just going to start the screen share here. There we are. Hopefully that's trying something slightly new today. We're going to be going through our verified deck here, which I haven't done, so bear with me, but it should be a little more entertaining than usual and more interactive. Thanks for the intro there, Taylor. As mentioned, my name's Gareth Thomas. I'm the President, CEO, and Director of Westhaven Gold. And today I'm happy to be joined by Peter Fischl, our Exploration Manager. I'm sure a lot of you are probably sick of hearing me talk, so it's nice to have Peter here to tell you what we've been up to. So I'll start here by Taylor's gone through that there. Some forward-looking statements, might be making some of those. So the idea here is I'll go through our update on our initial maiden resource here and a few other things, and then I'll let Peter or get Peter to go through what we're up to as of now. And drilling's been ongoing here for about 10 days now for this year, so lots of exciting stuff happening there. The initial maiden resource we put out on January 10th. Very big milestone for Westhaven that we're excited to announce. We have a little over 1 million ounces of gold combined in both the classifications of the indicated and the inferred. You'll see there we have 841,000 ounces indicated at just under 2.5 grams per ton gold equivalent. And that's 7 times our cutoff grade. So we're quite pleased with that number there. We have an additional 277,000 ounces of in the inferred category, just under 1 gram gold equivalent. And you'll see there our metallurgy is quite good as well, non-refractory and amenable recovery by standard industry process flow sheet. And we'll be touching a little bit about the belt in general here, but primarily be talking about our flagship Shovelnose project. And a point to make there, insiders here of Westhaven own 25% of the shares outstanding. A little more on that, on our share structure here, a little over 126 million shares outstanding. We're at a market cap of a little under 58 million today. Working cap is quite good at the moment. We're a little under 4 million, which is doesn't seem like a lot to many, but that gets us a long way for where we are and location-wise and our drill costs. So we're good in working cap for quite a while there, and it could go quite a while. And I will mention there our analyst coverage. Obviously, Taylor on the call here has a target at us for $1.15 a share buy rating, and Craig Stanley from Raymond James at $1.10 a share as an outperform rating. Some of our institution and funds, plethora of precious metals, they've been with us for quite some time now, a great shareholder to have. Then we had the likes of Mark Franklin, Gold 2000, get involved here about a year ago. And as mentioned there, we own about 25% amongst ourselves here at the management and directors of Westhaven. A little bit about the history. This is a relatively, well, it was actually an old slide that we kind of reinvented here, but it gives people a little bit of perspective of the area who aren't overly familiar with this southwestern British Columbia area and the Spence's Bridge Gold Belt. You'll see our Shovelnose for reference there down to the southeast here. And as you move up our Prospect Valley and our Skunka North, you'll see this white outline here. That's the Highland Valley Copper Mine, which is about 30 kilometers as a crow flies from our Skunka North, largest open pit mine in Canada. And of course, you have the Fraser River coming up here where it splices off to the Thompson up here. And Fraser keeps heading up there to the north. And first gold, placer gold, was found right in this area, just coming off the Nikomin River in 1857. And this drew an estimated 20,000 plus prospectors to this area shortly after the San Francisco gold rush of 1849. And this little town, I'm sure some of you have been through it. It's a bit of a ghost town. Well, I shouldn't say ghost town. There's a few things there, but this was the largest town north of San Francisco and west of Chicago back in these days. So a pretty significant area, and really was what became a BC after this gold rush. And it's our belief that a lot of this lode source of this placer gold has come from the Spence's Bridge Gold Belt, Skunka North perhaps. But yeah, it's just a neat little reference for this area and a bit about the history. Another more zoomed in look at the belt there on the right. You'll see our projects, which I mentioned there, and as Taylor mentioned there, we have a little over 37,000 hectares on this belt, and within these 4 properties, and mainly be touching on the Shovelnose today. But we are looking to do work. We did some work on our Prospect Valley recently, and we're looking to get up to Skunka Creek this year, and Skunka North. We will be doing some work there for sure, and yeah, so lots going on here, and about 86% of this remaining belt in this other color, the lighter or maybe darker beige, depending on how you look at it, is owned by a group called Talisker, and anything within 5 kilometers of all 4 of our properties, we have a 2.5% NSR, which is it equates to about 70,000 hectares. Now we'll start getting into this relatively new thing for me here, but it's another neat way for people to get a better look at the area here and really how close we are. Here's the Coquihalla Highway. I'm not sure, Peter, are you able to see my mouse as I move here?
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, you're moving up the Coquihalla Highway here. Major power line comes right up here north of the property. We have another power line that comes right up through almost through our south zone here. So pretty, I sound like a broken record how much we talk about this, but location is very key here, and it's a unique advantage for a company in our position. 1 million ounces off a highway, it's a nice position to be in. Just move along here as we actually zoom into the south zone. You'll see the south zone here where our resource is, and we're looking sort of due north here, and so our strikes being sort of down in this area. Moving all the way up, imagine 4 kilometers along this line, which I'll show you here shortly. But very, rolling hills area. We're up there working right now. Not a huge amount of snowfall. A lot of clear cuts. There's over 400 kilometers of roads on our property alone. So lots of good infrastructure, and obviously close to the city of Merritt. About a 30-minute drive from Merritt right to our drill right now. Here's another look where we come in. Now you're looking south as we looking out over south. Coquihalla would just be down over here. Little village of Brookmere just down over here. And yeah, it gives you another kind of look of the area there. Looks slightly different today, I will say, due to the forest fire, devastating fire of last year. So looks a little bit different on a third western part of the property. And here we'll have a zoom right into the south zone and our discovery hole here in SN 1814, where we drilled the 17.7 meters at 24.5 grams per ton gold and 107 grams per ton silver. Another 50 meters up, we drilled this 1901, which is arguably our best hole to date, 12.66 meters of 39 grams per ton gold. And maybe with that, Peter, as we're kind of looking at how this was discovered, but maybe we can just give a brief, if you want to just touch on where we were drilling over in this area and how it became to this discovery hole, and or we can wait for another slide. It's up to you, but if you want to touch on.
Yeah, sure. I can start here. Yeah, it was, back in the spring of 2017, we had that epithermal expert, Jeff Hedenquist, up on the project, and he recommended doing a whole bunch of ground magnetics to help define magnetic linear features that may be associated with zones of upflow in an epithermal system. And also doing a bunch of terraspec work using the infrared spectroscopy to kind of look at the clay mineralogy and kind of map out, again, where there may be slightly higher areas of paleo temperatures where there might be signs of upflow in an epithermal system. So just down to the northwest there, down where the trees are, we drilled a few holes there starting in late 2017. And we started hitting some interesting looking quartz veins, a meter scale banded quartz veins, very epithermal looking, which we really hadn't seen before. We started doing some more follow-up drilling in early 2018. We had assumed we were testing a northeast trending magnetic feature. We thought we had a northeast trending zone of upflow. But then as we stepped out along it, we realized we actually have a northwest trending zone of veining, and we were rapidly getting into the roots of the system. So we kind of reoriented the drill and figured we need to get shallower on the system. From my experience in Russia, I spent 12 years chasing epithermals in Russia. From what I saw in there, I could tell from what we had here, we were getting into the roots of a strong epithermal system. So we came back with hole 1814 and started drilling to the northeast to test this northwest turning vein zone, and at a much shallower level. And that was our first significant bonanza hit, and in vein zone 1 there. And so we kind of knew we had a preferred horizon where we were getting significant gold mineralization along a vein zone trending northwest now. And subsequently, with all the drilling we've been doing, with this vein zone 1 now, we've chased for just over 4 kilometers now. So, including through zone 1 here, which south zone, I mean, and which carries the bulk of the mineralization. So we've been doing with the drilling over the last few years. So there's a plan map right now. You can see the faint red right there. That's our vein zone 1, trending northwest for just over 4 kilometers now. You can see towards the south end there, southeast end, there's our pits based on the resource drilling we've done around vein zone 1. Around that proposed pit, we also have a couple other vein zones, vein zone 2 shown in blue, and then vein zone 3 in green there. So, and you can see there's our block model.
Jumped ahead there a bit on you, Peter. My apologies.
Okay, well, I think, it's a good point to now continue on here, I guess.
Sure.
So kind of laid out the groundwork there. So. Yeah.
Well, thanks for the for letting people know how that came about there. And just touch on this resource. I think we get back into it here shortly. You can read through the numbers there. I won't read through it all. I think the big thing here is where 75% of this is in the indicated classification, as I mentioned there. We're 7 times higher than the cutoff grade, which is excellent potential for potential economics here. And I've already mentioned this many times, where we're located near grid power and everything. So and this will be growing here. And as Peter mentioned there's the vein zone 1 in red, which goes all the way up to the Franz, which is the outcrop we discovered in August of 2020. And you have this little magenta piece here, which we'll touch on shortly as well, which we're calling vein zone 4 at the moment. It's relatively newly discovered. Then you get this vein zone 2 and vein zone 3 as well. And I will just have a little look at the pit here itself. And you can see, I don't know how easy it is to see there, but the green is 0.35 to 1 gram, and yellow is 1 gram to 3.5 or 3 grams, and the red is greater than 3 here. You just see as you take off the lower grade there, you're still with a very good chunk of mineralization there. Then, of course, if you go right into the high grade, nice looking high grade part there into this pit. Let's see here. And there we go. We have a better look at vein zone 1 here. So this is this sort of copper looking feature here that runs all the way up here. And there's that magenta part I talked about, which is our vein zone 4. But this gives you a good idea of, most of our drilling's being sort of focused in and around the south zone where we have 1 million ounces. We really like what we're seeing up here now at FMN. A big gap in here, which we haven't drilled yet. Then, of course, you get to Franz, where we have this high-grade outcrop that comes to surface, and it's still open to the northwest here as well. So lots more just to look at. Just looking at along here, we think we're going to add, greatly to this story just by, focusing the drill more up and around this area, not to mention the regional prospectivity of this project as well, which we're a lot of boots on ground last year. We had lots of new discoveries, which we're following up on, and hopefully to get those targets to drill delineated and into drill targets here pretty quick. Just being cognizant of time here, I won't go into all these holes, but some pretty nice intercepts here for the south zone, as we've talked about before. You get the 41, almost 42 meters of 8 grams there. And, then you get a 1.65 meters of 175 grams per ton gold, big bonanza grade. And then we'll take a look here at the FMN. We have a few more holes here that we will update this with here shortly. But Franz, this is about 3 kilometers from the south of the south zone, where you're getting 7.78 meters of almost 15 grams per ton gold. Nice silver kick there as well. Then, of course, 161 was our big hole of last year in the FMN. But we have 3 or 4 or 5 pretty good holes, and we're awaiting assay here for about another dozen or so, maybe more holes to come from FMN as well here. And that's where we're currently drilling, which Peter will touch on here shortly. And just to remind people of the size of this property. I mean, this is a 17,000 hectare property that is relatively underexplored, but we've gone back to basics here last year. We did a big silt program. Like I said, boots on ground. We had geos out prospecting, mapping some really interesting targets down in this neck of the woods. Some of our highest silts to date, possibly on the belt, coming from down in here and up and around here, and some nice hydrothermal breccia and these Curtin and Brookmere, we'll call them zones here, but targets out here as well. Then, of course, Romeo drilling. We've had a few holes drilled over in Romeo, and we're seeing what appears to be upper levels of an epithermal, lots of pathfinder elements, but haven't hit anything big yet. But there's certainly something going on here. Lots of good geochemistry. And we will be following up on a lot of these areas, and including just immediately along strike in here. We have lots of interesting things that were unearthed in our field program last year as well. So main focus at the moment is FMN, as we're currently drilling there, but also a lot more to look at here. I've talked about the majority of this here. I won't keep banging the drum here, but obviously year-round exploration as we're drilling there right now. And here's another look at our pit, our resource, the Alpine Lear Tower Zone, where we first really were focused back in the 2012, 13, 14. We were 15. We were focused here, kind of drilling half-gram material over 50 meters. Obviously, slowly got down here into the meat and potatoes, but we're starting to see more as we drill more up into this area. And Peter, maybe good time to talk about the Alpine on these vein zone that I think obviously is been extended up here, and the second vein zone as well. Maybe I'll let you just discuss even this 265 meters of half gram to put a little color on that would be good.
Yeah, sure. So we got in the South Zone area, we have 3 vein zones that we defined so far. But some of the gold is actually in sort of these enveloping areas of lower grade of these veinlets. That's more tied up in the inferred resource. So the indicated is the higher grade gold mineralization in the vein zones that we can follow from hole to hole, but also we get these halos around the vein zones with the lower grade, but that add to this bulk tonnage potential that we see at South Zone there. At Alpine, that's sort of more actually it's more vein zone 2 that continues through Alpine. In the Lear area, that's more zone 3 there. So as you can follow zone 2 northwest all the way up into the tower area, it kind of looks like it's actually getting closer again towards vein zone 1, which blows right through tower FMN in France. And just northwest of tower, we think maybe vein zone 2 kind of merges again with vein zone 1. So vein zone 2 is generally a lower grade, but in the South Zone area, it can have significant grades. Like hole, I'm still thinking of hole 1910, where we had like 50 meters of 5 grams. So that's quite a significant hit in vein zone 2. It's more of a sheeted veinlet zone. While vein zone 1, you do get meter scale veins up to about 20 or so meters wide in the South Zone area and also up in the FMN. And again, Lear is more zone 3. Again, more of a sheeted veinlet zone, but it can contain meter scale veins as well. And zone 3 is still open. We're going to be plugging away at that at some point this season again. So yeah, we've traced it over 0.8 kilometers, zone 3, the green bit of green you see there. Yeah, and it's still open to the northwest into the Lear area. So yeah. So up in the just a quick a bit of the history again. The tower area, that's sort of the historic or much of the older historic drilling going back to 2011 was conducted. That's actually, as it turns out, where zone 2 actually outcrops. So people talk about the thick overburden we see at South Zone, but that's not typical for the Shovelnose project. We do see in places that the vein zones outcropping. At Tower, we see vein zone 2 outcropping. At Franz, we have vein zone 1 outcropping. So yeah, and generally as you go northwest, the glacial till cover thins considerably. So yeah, we do see the outcrop at Tower. In the FMN area, your overburden there is no more than 20-30 meters thick. So yeah, which is a good thing because we do see mineralization at FMN. So FMN, we kind of it was originally just a geochem anomaly extending out from Tower northwest, and we kind of by July of 2020 we realized between Tower and South Zone, it's all we could still trace our 2 main vein zones, zones 1 and 2, right through that area. Projecting along strike northwest, we realized, this thing is still open and potentially a kilometer scale structure continuing to the northwest. And back in early August, we kind of followed this trend and looked at some at the geological maps, and we thought we saw some of this rhyolite, our preferred host rock, happening in the Franz area. So in early August, it was a slow day at the core shack, and we sent one of our loggers out. And within a few days in early August, he found the Franz outcrop, which locally was running up to 50 grams at surface. So we kind of realized, this is all one 4 kilometer long structure. And then we had this kind of a gap between Tower and Franz, the historic FMN area, which originally was just a soil geochem anomaly, and we just started plugging away, continuing to trace northwest from the Tower area where we get vein zone 1, and we kept following this thing. And then by 2020, we started getting some interesting numbers in holes 139, 145, and just kept plugging away. And that culminated with the drilling of hole 161, where we got 15.97 meters of 9.15 grams gold. So that was a bit of a deeper hit at closer to the 1,200 meter level. But since then, we realized we got mineralization coming right up to the top of bedrock, right up to almost 1,400 meter level. So and with the minimal glacial till cover, unlike South Zone, which it does have a bit more, up to 100 meters thick, but here, so we're seeing mineralization coming right up to bedrock. The true widths thicken as you go up dip near surface up to about 40 meters or so with the current drilling we're seeing. So we have potentially another open pit situation happening here. So this is a really intriguing this FMN target. So we currently have one drill there, and we'll be drilling this off on 50-meter sections. That should be a tight enough spacing to, at some point later this year, maybe potentially coming up with a potential resource, inferred to indicated resource, similar to what we've been doing at South Zone. So this is certainly shaping up to be an interesting target here. So again, FMN, where we're getting some interesting numbers, that's about 1.5 to 2 kilometers northwest of the in-pit resource at South Zone. So so definitely something is shaping up there. So with the initial drilling there, we're going to be stepping out towards the southeast, back towards Tower, and then stepping out northwest to help figure out what's happening in that gap there. So so that's we're going to try to do some more geophysics to help figure out what's going on in the gap as well. So we want to eventually kind of push this thing more northwest again towards Franz. So so it's certainly we'll be busy on at the FMN target there for sure.
Maybe Peter, just on that note, just let in terms of the DC resistivity, how we did some pretty sparsely spaced lines there back in 2020, but maybe just talk about the veining we're seeing at FMN in terms of the intensity and how it does correlate with the resistivity, which is we're hopefully is a valuable tool here. Maybe just touch on that slightly while we kind of end it here.
Okay. So DC resistivity, it's basically the same as an IP survey, but here we're just focused on mapping out the resistivity features. And as it turns out, with anything with a high silica content is very resistive. So including the quartz veins, veinlet zones, and the silicified wall rock that we're seeing. So we've done this over South Zone. It maps out the vein zones beautifully, and we're now we've done some reconnaissance lines through the FMN area. It worked incredible. It's so and it's fairly detailed. So it's certainly a useful tool for mapping out the vein zones. And at FMN, we don't have much overburden cover, and we see this intense veining coming right up to the top of bedrock there. So this DC resistivity surveying, it's certainly quite useful and quite critical in defining our vein zone and helping with targeting our vein zone 1 in the FMN area. So so the coming months or so we'll be doing some more geophysics to help with the targeting at FMN. So certainly an important tool for mapping out these electrically resistive bodies of veining and veinlets that we see in vein zone 1 at FMN. So
and here just ending on a bit of an arm waiver here, but obviously with that 17,000 hectares, as you saw, nice from that verify map there. We're on to this is a little bit bigger now, this vein zone 1, but lots of regional targets on the outside here that we're working on diligently to try and find more of these. So obviously Hishikari's one of the better mines in the world, but we do see some like to share some similarities to that and what we're seeing, but one day hopefully. And just some upcoming catalysts as we were discussing here. We got lots of results due back from both FMN and our South Zone expansion holes that didn't make it to the resource. And we're at FMN now drilling with one rig, and we're looking to ramp up come springtime with another rig, and lots of new targets to be testing here on the periphery and more regionally, which we will have some news out in the near future as well once we get all our data in and we can really paint a good picture of what those targets look like and why we're drilling those. So yeah, with that, I think I'll stop sharing and open it up to some questions. Taylor, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfect. So thank you very much, Gareth and Peter. So now we'll turn to the Q&A portion of the webinar. Just a reminder to everybody on the line that you can type in your questions to the chat box at any point. We've had quite a few questions come in so far. So I'll just kind of start going down the list here. In terms of, I guess, looking forward, you outlined some of the catalysts just a moment ago. Where do you see the company going kind of 2022, 2023? And, the drilling's has started already. One of the questions was on, have you contracted drillers yet? And how much are you planning to drill this year?
Yeah, we're using the same drill company we've used for quite a few years now. Titan Diamond Drilling. They've been excellent and know this property very well. They know the community well. So yeah, we've contracted Titan, and we have gone a tender before in other years past here, but just so people are aware, we're not. But Titan has continued to deliver, and like I said, a good group to work with. And this year, though, we haven't got a exact budget number in our mind. The last previous 2 years, in 2020, we drilled 43,000 meters. And then last year, we drilled just over 40,000 meters. I should add, despite being, shut down for a month of forest fires and another, probably lost a month because of the flooding. But so, yeah, we certainly met our goals there. And this year, we're still coming up with our budgets, and we're kind of keeping our eye on this market and what's going on, of course. But yeah, we're looking at a minimum of 20,000 meters, but that could go up as high as 40,000, possibly more. And we are hoping to drill Skunka this year as well at some point. Of course, a little bit depending on the logistics of that. Obviously, the town of Lytton got destroyed last year, a devastating fire there. So that's where we usually would work out of. So but we are looking to drill Skunka.
Okay, great. On the theme of drilling, we have a question just wondering if the cost of drilling has increased much, or if you've seen much insight on that.
Yeah, like everything, I think these days with inflation, and I mean, not to dwell on that, prices have gone up a bit, but that was very much to be expected, just with kind of everything, fuel and diesel and everything kind of going up, but nothing that's drastic. Where we don't have helicopters, we don't have planes. We're a short drive from Merritt, not a long drive from Vancouver, so we're in a pretty good position that way, right off a highway. So costs are still very good for drilling cost.
Okay, and do you have a kind of a rough percentage of total expenditure that you allocate to drilling? Or?
Yeah, I'd say probably about 85% of our budget is really on drilling at this point. We drilled, like I said, 40,000 meters last year. We spent about 9 million was kind of our budget for last year. So yeah, but a good chunk of that is going towards the drill bit for sure. And I mean, like I said, we're still very much an exploration story here. We're a drill bit story. We really like our initial resource. We think we did a good job on that. I think we've de-risked this certainly. We're also working, which we haven't announced much, but we started environmental baseline work there last year as well. So we're doing a lot of the behind in sort of just being very proactive and to get a lot of this work done, as we know down the road, if this does become bigger than not just if it becomes something more development production, we want to get this stuff going, and we've done that. So that will be more budget towards that, but for the big chunk, we'll still be drilling. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I have a question here, turning more towards the resource and that. One of them is, can you walk us through your choosing of the cutoff rate, some insights into the pit design?
I will probably refrain from that, as it's I mean, in terms of the economics and how we obviously haven't done much on that in terms of the cutoff grade itself. Obviously, I will touch on that. And I should, maybe a good time to mention, and I mentioned it in our company webinar we did on January 10th, that we will have an underground component of this resource out in the coming months. Hopefully by April. I think we got another couple months. We're not starting from scratch, obviously, for this underground component, but that will be a very different cutoff grade for the underground component, and how we came about that. But we're using a lot of the industry standard here, what's around us, which obviously isn't a lot. We're not in an area, you can't really compare yourselves to Highland Valley Copper. It's a different beast, obviously. Maybe one day, or you're looking at a few things within the area, but that's just an industry, and we're very happy with the resource, but it's also a very defendable, conservative resource. It's a very good resource that we think is going to have really good economics. I will say that, yeah. But the underground component will certainly be a much different cutoff and a much different grade. But yeah, we'll have that out, sometime in the spring is what we're working on for that.
Okay, great. Next question: could the new holes on the south zone add to the maiden resource?
I'll leave that for you, Peter.
Well, we'll see more. I suspect it'll be more of a conversion of the inferred to indicated. We may get more into the indicated category, but there is going to be some additional ounces. The results are still coming in from holes we submitted last October. So, yeah, we're just getting in new numbers right now. So, but yeah, we'll be getting some more inferred to indicated, and we may be getting some additional ounces. But yeah, right now it's still too soon to say how much. But yeah.
But from the drilling we did do to the northwest that didn't make it into the resource, I will say there's a lot more things to be following up on there as well that look interesting. So we're hoping, when we'll get some of that news out when it comes. And then just to clear that on the sampling there, big backlog in the Kamloops facility. So we've been actually getting some of most of our newer stuff's been going down right to North Vancouver, which is a much shorter waiting time. So samples are kind of staggered all around right now, our assays, I should say. But we're due back. We have quite a few due back here in the coming weeks, and certainly by sort of mid-February, we should have the majority of them back. But it was quite a backlog just due to the seasonal activity up and around BC.
Great. Okay. After the South Zone discovery, you were looking to extend to the southeast, but ran into a fault. Do you see any future possibility of picking up again to the southeast, or is that kind of shut off at this point?
There may be some. There is some faulting that's complicating things, but that trend, there's still some. It's still maybe alive further to southeast. So it's still an area of interest. It's a less of a priority now, based on what we're finding to the northwest. But based on some recent stream sediment sampling, there's still some indications of something happening to the southeast. So yeah, it's still an area of interest, but not a priority right now.
Potentially some future possibilities down there.
We'll hope to poke some holes there sometime this year. On Peter's been a bit quiet about. We're hoping to poke some holes down there. We found some as Peter had mentioned. We haven't made it out. This is just back to the basic stuff, but there's certainly some things that are adding up down there a bit further, just to the south of our Shylock, where we were drilling that zeolite. What was it, last year or 2 years ago? We drilled Shylock. Yeah, so there are some interesting things down there that have resurfaced. So still alive, but as Peter mentioned, we certainly have other higher priorities right now.
Right. Okay. And with that, the drilling has been ongoing at the FMN Zone. Recently put out some results from there. Have you completed some of the holes at the new elevations that you were targeting? Yeah.
Well, we're basically charting right up to almost 1,400 meters, and we're seeing mineralization. So We're just waiting on assays now, but yeah, these shallower elevations we're certainly at testing, and with success. So yeah, based on what we've seen in core, but yeah, we're still waiting on assays. So but yeah, so it's working out at FMN for sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, question, I guess, on the more ESG front. Do you overlap with any First Nations land? If so, what are the relationships like?
We are on Crown land, but of course, that we're in the territory of a few bands. The Coldwater Indian band would be the closest band to the Shovelnose, and yeah, we do lots of work with the Coldwater. We have about about 6 members working for us currently, and another 2 from the Lower Nickel Indian band. And then there's a component of the Coldwater called the Eshkanem that does a lot of the preliminary field recon surveys there. Every time we drill an area, they'll come up and do a sort of an arc survey there. So we're in good relations with that particular group, the Coldwater, which is under an umbrella called the CNA, which is about 8 bands involved in that. And then there's another group called the NNTC, which represents about 5 bands currently that we're in talks with as well. And they do a lot up at the Elk mine up with Gold Mountain as well. So yeah, very good relations, but it's always ongoing, and you're always, things are changing, I think, for the better in the province. And I think it's very important to be transparent to not just the First Nations, but the locals, the local communities, and really we're trying to get everyone involved in the local communities as much as possible. So yeah, it's certainly an ongoing relationship, engagement, and yeah, it's something we certainly are keen on.
Great. Okay. Switching gears a bit, another question came in. Lots of silver on the property and in the resource now. Any thought to selling a silver stream as a way of minimizing dilution and ramping up the drills?
Yeah, I mean, we were approached by a lot of groups right after our big discovery back in 2018, to be honest. And I think we've always sort of stuck to our belief that we're going to find more and more. It hasn't always happened, extremely quickly, but these things can be drill intensive and take a bit of thinking. But at this point, we're sticking to keeping everything we can. We think this is going to be more valuable, keeping everything together as is. So yeah, we do. The Osisko Royalties does have a 2% royalty on the Shovelnose at the moment, but we can buy back 1% of that for $500,000. So it's certainly a nice thing to have that 1%, and it's nice to have a group like Osisko with the other 1%. So at this point, nothing in the works for that at the moment. And I will say the FMN is looking certainly more silver rich than the South Zone as well. There's more silver up in that area, and but yeah, not at this point, Taylor.
Okay, great.
Good question though.
Okay. One of the other questions we had is, I guess, looking forward this year, what are you most concerned about that might derail your plans? I know you've dealt with quite a bit over the last year. Maybe what's your outlook like for this year?
Sorry, can you repeat that there, Taylor? I didn't.
What are you most concerned about that might derail your plans this year?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, 2021 was a bit of they threw a lot of things in that area and the local communities. Yeah, it was a tough year for the people in that area for sure. So yeah, hopefully that's in the rear view for fires and floods and whatnot. Yeah, I think we're feeling a lot more optimistic and cheery this year in terms of yeah. So I hopefully nothing is hopefully those things are going to take a bit of a break, these natural disasters. But at this point, we're hoping to go full steam ahead.
Great. Okay. I guess one more geology question. What is the range of thickness of the veins, and how far apart are they?
So we're seeing veins, millimeter, centimeter scale up to meter scale. At South Zone, they're up to, in vein zone 1, up to 20 meters wide. The recent drilling from the last fall at FMN, where there was a quartz breccia vein there, 20 meters wide. So up to about 20 meters. So it's kind of interesting because that 20 meters, and other deposits I've worked on, like for example at Kupol in Russia, a world-class deposit, the widest vein there was 20 meters. But some of the vein zones are more sheeted veinlet zones, while some of the vein zones are more dominated by the meter scale veins. Vein zone 1, for a good part of it, it's these larger meter scale veins. They can follow from hole to hole. Vein zones 2 and 3 are more zones, up to tens of meters wide, but of veinlets, sheeted veinlets. So we got a vein zone 1 again is a combination of most of the quartz being tied up in the meter scale veins, but you do get intervening again veinlets that add to the grade. Overall widths are again in vein zone 1. Tens of meters. What we're drilling right now at FMN up to about 40 meters. So individual veins up to about 20 meters. The overall encompassing veinlet zones of up to 30, 40 meters or so. So yeah.
Okay, great. So I think we're pretty much out of questions now. There's one last one that I think is good to end on. What differentiates Westhaven from the many other junior exploration companies? And then I'll let you add on any final thoughts you want to leave with investors before we sign off.
Yeah, excellent question. And the fact our location here, we're getting high grade gold off a highway in British Columbia, tier 1 jurisdiction. I think we'll filter out some of the companies from that, but we asked, been on calls with various analysts and groups the last couple of weeks since we put this resource out, and the question comes out, a million ounces is a start on our initial maiden resource here. There's not too many that many analysts or people can tell us of a 1 million ounce resource. There's not many of these anymore, and we think we're not far or on the verge to making this a multi-million, 2 million ounce deposit here with a little bit more drilling. So I think that certainly sets us apart as well. And really just the land package on a really underexplored district scale belt here, which maybe we don't do a good enough job screaming that from the rooftops here, but it's a very underexplored, not just the Shovelnose itself, but location and infrastructure, and it's been I think that separates us. And the fact we're drilling right now, where a lot of companies, certainly no disrespect to anybody in areas that are more seasonally accessible, but here we are working in January. We worked up until December drilling, so I think that separates us a lot as well from other groups. And we're you go to the town of Merritt, or you go to our core facility there where Peter often is, and with our team in place there with the locals involved into the company, that's another I think we've done a really, really good job in getting local involvement into the company as well, and we're continuing to do that. We're continuing to add from that.
If there's any others that you do want to adjust that you see, we've got a few minutes if you want to.
Well, there is one here which I would that I see here, and it says from KE. Westhaven recently mourns the passing of Ed Ballon. Can you talk about Ed's contributions? And I'll just, I think that's a good, we haven't talked a lot about that. And Ed battled for a few years here, and very sad to lose him here recently, and his contributions are endless in this industry, in this business, just from our group alone. And I'll let Peter touch on when Peter first met Ed, but yeah, he's been instrumental on this belt. I'm not sure we'd be here today talking about this without Ed having really discovered this in the early 2000s. And not just that, he was a great mentor to many in this business, and really a legend prospector, and really just a great guy. So yeah, we're certainly saddened, but we're happy that he got to see this resource, and that he got to see a lot of the success from here. So yeah, Peter, maybe you want to say something, because I know Peter knows Ed very well as well.
Yeah, from the early 90s there, when it was Fairfield Minerals, working out of the Siwash Elk deposit, that'd be northeast of Shovelnose. We were Fairfield was also drilling in a joint venture with Placer Dome on the Dill project, the Diller, which is now operated by Kodiak Copper. But yeah, that's where I first got to meet Ed. But Ed was really a trailblazer in the Spencer's Bridge Gold Belt. Back in the early 2000s, it was his follow-up work of those anomalous stream sediment samples collected by the BC Geological Survey. So it was those regional geochem programs that it was Ed kind of following up on these RGS programs that the BC Geological Survey were putting out for the South Central BC. And yeah, he was coming up with some finding some really intriguing quartz floats, banded epithermal quartz vein floats that just running 40 grams plus, so he kind of, that initial work really started drawing attention to the epithermal potential of the Spencer's Bridge belt here. So previously, the Spencer's Bridge belt was just these belt of Cretaceous volcanics that kind of flanked the Nicola belt, on the west side of the Nicola belt, and by then, South Central BC was all just the Nicola belt and all the porphyry copper, situations happening there. But what was happening along to the west of the Nicola belt, that kind of started, with Ed's initial trailblazing work there, that really started drawing attention that, it's not just copper. There's certainly some gold potential in these younger rocks to the west. So. Yeah, that he really opened up people's eyes to what's the potential for the Spencer's Bridge belt, which we now know as the Spencer's Bridge Gold Belt, because of his early pioneering work here. So so ultimately, we got to thank a big thank you to Ed there for recognizing what we had here. So and what we're still defining, and so it's his early work that really that we're quite thankful for, and so yeah, it's is one of his many legacies, his work in South Central BC here on the Spencer's Bridge belt. So yeah,
well said. Yeah. And Taylor, just one more thing here that we didn't ask on the last webinar, and it's a question here from about Paul McRae, our recently announced new director to the company, and there was a mention here. There's no evidence of Paul working with juniors, and all of a sudden, after 40 years, he joins our board. Any talks with Lundin? And no, not at this point. To be frank, I think they're pretty focused down there in South America. But Bob, Bob asked a question. Paul is someone that came about from a friend in connection with one of our other directors. Not many of us knew Paul personally, but he's going to bring a lot of experience and depth to sort of development into production, and certainly vast experience in these epithermals. He's worked on Fruta del Norte, as the question asked, and Paul does a lot in the ESG, which is also something we're working tirelessly on here in kind of behind the scenes, which we'll have more information out on as well. So. If that's it, I'd finish with Taylor's. Lots of results coming out, lots of assays pending still from last year, and we're seeing lots of interesting things here at FMN. So that's really if no other questions, that's the way we'd end. I see we're coming close to the end here.
Yeah, great. Thank you both very much, Gareth and Peter. Great presentation, and thank you for going through all the questions with us. We definitely had a lot in on this webinar, so that's great that for you to take the time to answer those and host the webinar today with us. And thank you to everybody on the line for tuning in as well.